What would you do if your child was screaming for help in a crowded place and everyone just walked? The red ball bounced 3 times before rolling into the street. 8-year-old Zuri Johnson laughed as Cooper, her scruffy terrier mix, took off after it like a furry rocket. His little legs pumped as fast as they could, his tail wagging with pure joy. This was their Saturday morning routine. Come to Riverside Park in Manhattan, play fetch by the fountain, and forget about everything else for a little while. Forget that her mom worked double shifts at the Grandview Hotel just to keep their tiny apartment. Forget that kids at school called her scholarship girl because she didn't have the right clothes or the right shoes. Forget that sometimes the world felt too big and too mean for an 8-year-old to understand. But right now, watching Cooper chase that ball, Zuri felt happy. Then, everything went. Cooper didn't stop at the edge of the pathway. He was too focused on the ball, too excited, too much of a puppy to remember the rules about streets and cars and danger. He bolted right into traffic. The silver sedan came out of nowhere. Zuri heard the screech of brakes, heard the sickening thud of metal hitting something soft, heard her own voice screaming, "Cooper!" so loud her throat. The car didn't stop. It swerved around Cooper's small body and kept going, disappearing around the corner before Zuri could even process what she'd seen. Hit and run. Like Cooper's life didn't matter enough to even pause for. Zuri ran into the street, her Sunday dress, the nice yellow one her mama had bought on sale for church, flapping around her knees. She didn't care about cars, didn't care about anything except getting to Cooper. He was lying in the middle of the road, whimpering. His back leg was bent wrong, twisted at an angle that made Zuri's stomach hurt. Blood was coming from somewhere on his side, spreading dark red across his brown and white fur. "Cooper! Cooper, please be okay!" Zuri scooped him up, and he yelped in pain. She could feel him shaking, could feel his heart beating too fast against her hands, could feel how scared he was. A horn honked aloud behind her. A man in a truck yelled something about getting out of the street. Zuri stumbled back to the sidewalk, holding Cooper as carefully as she could, feeling his blood seeping warm and wet through her dress. They made it to the park pathway where families were having picnics, where joggers ran past in expensive sneakers, where couples pushed $1,000 strollers, where everyone looked clean and comfortable and safe. Zuri looked around desperately. All these people, all these adults, somebody would help. Somebody had to help. "Help!" Her voice came out high and scared. "Somebody please help! My dog is dying!" She knelt on the concrete pathway, not caring that her knee scraped against the ground. Cooper was getting heavier in her arms. His breathing sounded wrong, wet and shallow. "Please," Zuri's voice cracked. "He got hit by a car. Please, somebody call for help." A woman jogging past in bright pink yoga clothes slowed down. For just a second, hope flared in Zuri's chest. The woman was going to stop. She was going to help. But the woman's eyes slid over Zuri, took in her braided hair coming loose from its ponytails, her yellow dress now stained with dirt and blood, her bare knees on the concrete, the injured dog bleeding in her arms. The woman's nose wrinkled slightly, like she smelt something bad. Then she looked away and kept jogging. "Wait!" Zuri called after her. "Please, my dog is hurt!" The woman put in earbuds and jogged faster. Zuri turned to a family having a picnic on the grass, about 20 feet away. Mom, Dad, 2 kids eating sandwiches on a checkered blanket. The dad was looking right at her. He could see her. He could see Cooper bleeding. "Help!" Zuri shouted to them. "Please, I need to call someone. I don't have a phone." The dad said something to his wife. The wife gathered up their kids and their picnic basket. The whole family stood up and walked to a different part of the park, further away from Zuri and her dying dog, like they were the problem. Like blood and fear and desperation were contagious things that might ruin their nice Saturday. Cooper made a sound that broke Zuri's heart.
A whimper that said he was hurting, that said he didn't understand why this was happening, that said he needed help and didn't know why help wasn't coming. "It's okay," Zuri whispered to him, even though it wasn't okay. Even though nothing was okay. "Somebody will help us. Somebody has to help us." But as she looked around at all the people walking past, some glancing at her with uncomfortable expressions before hurrying away, some not even bothering to look, some actively moving to the other side of the path to avoid her, Zuri felt something cold settle in her stomach. Nobody was going to help. Not because they couldn't, not because they didn't see, but because they'd looked at her, an 8-year-old black girl in a stained dress with a bleeding dog, and decided she wasn't worth their time. Cooper's breathing got worse. More blood pooled on the ground beneath them. Zuri could feel him getting weaker. She was 8 years old, alone in a park full of people, and her best friend was dying in her arms. "Please," she sobbed, not even sure who she was talking to anymore. "Please, somebody, anybody. I'm just a kid. I can't do this by myself. Please." A white-haired man in an expensive suit walked toward her, and for one precious second, Zuri thought her prayers had been answered. If this is your first time on Top Core, hit that subscribe button right now, because what this man says next will show you exactly why some people never get help, even when they're dying. The man in the expensive suit stopped about 6 feet away from Zuri, close enough to show he'd noticed her, far enough to make it clear he didn't want to get involved. His nose wrinkled, just like the joggers had, like Zuri and Cooper were something unpleasant, something that didn't belong in his clean, expensive park. "Young lady," he said, his voice sharp and annoyed, "this park has leash laws. If your animal is out of control, that's not our problem. Perhaps you should be more responsible with your pets." The words hit Zuri like a slap. "He's not out of control," she managed to say through her tears. "He got hit by a car. A car hit him and didn't stop. He's hurt. I need help." The man pulled out his phone, but Zuri's hope lasted only a second. He wasn't calling for help. He was taking a picture of her. "I'm reporting this to park management. Unsupervised children, unleashed animals, blood on the walkway. This is a family park. This kind of thing ruins the experience for everyone." Zuri stared at him in disbelief. Cooper was dying, right here, right now, and this man was worried about the experience being ruined. "Please," Zuri begged. "Please just call someone, an animal hospital, the police, anybody, please." But the man was already walking away, phone to his ear, complaining to someone about the situation in Riverside Park. Zuri wanted to scream, wanted to throw something, wanted to make all these people see her, really see her, not just glance and look away like she was invisible. A couple with a baby stroller approached. The woman was young, maybe her mama's age. She looked kind. She looked like someone who might help. "Excuse me," Zuri called out, trying to keep her voice steady. "My dog was hit by a car. Can you please call for help? Please." The woman slowed down, her face showing something that looked like sympathy. She opened her mouth like she might say yes. Then her husband grabbed her arm and pulled her along.
"Don't get involved, Christine. You don't know what kind of situation this is." "But she's just a child," the woman protested quietly. "Exactly. Where are her parents? This could be some kind of scam. Come on." They walked away, the wife looking back once with guilty eyes before letting her husband pull her around the corner. Scam. The word echoed in Zuri's head. What kind of scam involved a dying dog and an 8-year-old crying on the ground? Cooper whimpered again, weaker this time. His eyes were closing. The pool of blood beneath them was getting bigger. "No, no, no!" Zuri pressed her hand against the wound on his side, trying to stop the bleeding like she'd seen people do on TV. "Stay awake, Cooper. Please stay awake." A group of teenagers walked past, laughing about something on one of their phones. Zuri called out to them, but they had headphones in and didn't even turn their heads. An older woman with a small dog on a leash approached, and Zuri felt another flicker of hope. Someone with a dog would understand, right? Someone who loved animals would help another animal in trouble. "Please, ma'am," Zuri said. "My dog needs help. Do you know where an animal hospital is? Can you call someone?" The woman looked at Cooper, looked at all the blood. and clutched her own small white poodle closer to her chest. "I'm sorry, dear, but I can't get my Precious near that. She's a show dog, very valuable. I can't risk her getting upset or dirty." She walked away quickly, her poodle looking back at Cooper with more concern than its owner had shown. Precious was too valuable to help. Cooper, bleeding on the ground, apparently wasn't. Zuri looked down at her dress, at her scraped knees, at Cooper dying in her arms, and finally understood what was happening. This wasn't about leash laws or park rules or being unsupervised. This was about who she was, what she looked like. The fact that her dress came from a discount store and her hair wasn't done in some fancy salon. And she didn't have the right kind of face or skin or money to matter to these people. Her mama had warned her, "Baby, the world's not always fair," Shanice had said more than once. "Some people are going to judge you before you even open your mouth. Judge you for being black, for being poor, for being different from what they're comfortable with. You just got to hold your head high and be twice as good to get half as far." But Zuri didn't want to be twice as good. She just wanted someone to help her save Cooper. More people walked past. A man in running clothes, a woman talking on her phone, a couple holding hands. All of them saw her. All of them looked away. Zuri stopped calling out, stopped begging, stopped believing anyone would help. She bent over Cooper, pressing her face to his matted fur, feeling his breathing getting slower and slower. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry I can't save you. I'm sorry nobody cares. I'm sorry we don't matter enough." The world blurred through her tears. The sounds of the park faded away. The laughter, the conversations, the footsteps of people going about their perfect Saturday mornings, while her world ended on the concrete. Cooper's heart beat weak and irregular against her chest. He didn't have much time left. Minutes, maybe. And Zuri was powerless to stop it. She was invisible. He was invisible. And when he died, all these people would just keep walking, keep jogging, having their picnics like nothing had happened, like a life hadn't ended while they all looked away. "Easy there, sweetheart. Let me take a look." The voice came from behind her, rough and weathered, but unexpectedly gentle. Zuri looked up through her tears, not daring to hope, not able to stop hoping, at the person who'd finally stopped. What happens when the only person willing to help looks nothing like a hero? Keep watching, because what Zuri sees next will shock you more than anything that's come before. The man kneeling beside Zuri looked like he'd been living on the streets for months. His clothes were layered and dirty, a threadbare coat over a stained hoodie over what might have once been a dress shirt. His beard was long and unkempt, his hair tangled and greasy. His hands were covered in dirt, his fingernails broken and black. He smelled like old sweat and something sour that Zuri couldn't identify. Everything about him screamed danger. Every stranger danger lesson Zuri had ever learned told her to back away. Don't talk to homeless people. Don't let strangers touch you. Don't trust people who look like they might hurt you. But this man's eyes weren't dangerous. They were kind. Sharp and intelligent, but kind. And more importantly, he'd stopped. After dozens of clean, well-dressed, respectable people had walked past her dying dog, this dirty stranger had stopped. "What happened?" he asked, his voice rough but gentle. His hands were already moving over Cooper's body, checking his injuries with a confidence that seemed practiced. "A car," Zuri gasped, not caring anymore what he looked like, not caring about anything except saving Cooper. "It hit him and drove away. Nobody will help us. I don't have a phone. My mom's at work. I don't know what to do." The stranger's jaw tightened as his hands carefully examined Cooper's twisted leg, the gash in his side, the way his breathing had gone shallow and weak. "Broken leg. This wound is deep. He's got internal bleeding." The man spoke with medical certainty, not guessing but knowing. "We need to get him to a veterinarian immediately. Every second counts." He started to carefully lift Cooper, supporting his body in a way that minimized movement, when a sharp voice cut through the moment. "Step away from that child, now!" Zuri looked up to see a park security guard striding toward them, his hand hovering near the radio on his belt. His name tag read Officer Walsh.
Behind him, the white-haired businessman from earlier was pointing at the stranger, his face showing satisfaction. "That's him, officer. That vagrant has been harassing this poor girl. I witnessed it myself. He accosted her." "What?" Zuri scrambled to her feet. "No, he's helping me. My dog is dying and he's the only person who stopped." But Officer Walsh wasn't listening to her. His eyes were locked on the stranger, and Zuri could see exactly what he was thinking. Homeless man, young black girl, injured dog. This looked bad. This looked like something that needed to be handled. "Sir, I need you to step back from the child," Walsh said, his voice hard. "Put your hands where I can see them." The stranger slowly stood up, raising his dirt-stained hands in a non-threatening gesture. "Officer, this child's dog was hit by a car. He has serious injuries. We need to get him medical attention right now or he's going to die. That's what matters here. What matters is I've had multiple complaints about you bothering people in this park. People are uncomfortable. They don't feel safe. Now I find you alone with an unaccompanied minor. You understand how this looks. I understand how you're choosing to see it, but what's actually happening is that this little girl begs for help and everyone ignored her. Everyone, except me." "He's telling the truth," Zuri shouted, tears streaming down her face again. "Everyone walked away. The jogger lady, the picnic family, that man right there. He told me Cooper getting hit was my fault. This man is the only person who tried to help." A crowd was gathering now, more phones coming out, more people recording. I could hear them whispering, "Is that guy homeless? What's he doing with that little girl? Someone should call the real police. This is exactly why they shouldn't allow those people in the park." Those people. Zuri heard the words and felt sick. They were talking about the stranger like he wasn't human. Like being dirty and poor meant he couldn't possibly be helping. Couldn't possibly be good. Just like they'd treated her. Invisible when she needed help. Visible now, only as a victim to be saved from the wrong kind of person. "Please," Zuri begged Officer Walsh. "Please listen to me. Cooper is dying. This man knows what he's doing. He said Cooper has internal bleeding. We need to get him to a vet right now." "Sweetheart, I understand you're upset," Walsh said, in that condescending tone adults use when they've already decided not to listen, "but you need to step away from this man so we can sort this situation out properly." "There's no time to sort anything out." The stranger's calm was cracking now. "The dog has maybe 10 minutes before the internal bleeding kills him. Every second we waste arguing is a second closer to this child losing her best friend." "Don't tell me how to do my job," Walsh snapped. He reached for his radio. "I'm calling NYPD. We'll let them handle this." "He doesn't need police. He needs the doctor," Zuri was screaming now, her voice raw. "Why won't anyone listen to me? Why doesn't anyone care?" Cooper made a sound in her arms that was barely a whimper. His eyes were closing. His body was going limp. "No, no, no!" Zuri pressed her face to his fur. "Cooper, please. Please don't die. Please." The stranger looked at Cooper, looked at Walsh reaching for, looked at the crowd recording this whole thing like it was entertainment, and his expression hardened. He reached into his dirty coat and pulled something out that made a phone. Not some cheap flip phone, not some old broken thing. A brand new iPhone in a sleek case, the kind that cost $1,500. The kind of phone a homeless person should. Subscribe to Topcore right now if you've ever been judged by your appearance. Because what this stranger does with that phone is about to flip everything you think you know about. The expensive phone gleamed in the stranger's dirt, completely out of wrong. Officer Walsh's eyes narrowed with, "Where did you get that? I bought the stranger." He was already unlocking it, fingers moving across the screen with pressure. "And I'm using it to save this dog's life since you're more interested in theater than..." "Theater?" Walsh isn't. "You need to put that phone..." The stranger ignored. He pressed the phone to, and when he spoke, his voice changed. Still rough, but carrying an authority that made everyone stop talking. "Dr. Patterson? I'm at Riverside Park, East Entrance Fountain. Emergency situation. Dog hit by car, approximately 20 pounds, terrier mix, broken right rear leg, deep laceration left flank about 4 inches, shallow labored breathing indicating possible internal bleeding." Zuri's mouth opened. The stranger wasn't just guessing, he was giving professional medical details like a doctor. "I need you here now. Full trauma kit.
Yes, I'm aware of how I look. Just get here. You've got 10 minutes. He hung up and looked at Officer Walsh with an expression that could freeze. A veterinarian will be here in less than minutes. Until then, I suggest we focus on keeping this animal stable instead of performing your little show for. Walsh's face went from red bull. Your little show? No, you. The stranger's voice didn't rise, but it carried weight that made everyone in the crowd. That child asked. She screamed for help. She begged for help. And every single person in this park walked past her like she didn't exist. He gestured at the crowd with hand. You're supposed to serve and protect the people's park. Instead, you've spent the last 5 minutes harassing the one person who actually stopped to help while a living creature bleeds out. Think about what that says about your. Several people in the crowd shifted. Phones were still recording, but the energy. People were starting to realize this wasn't the story they thought. The stranger knelt back down beside Zurita.
Cooper, his voice softening immediately. What's your name, Art? Zuri. Zuri. My name is David. He said it carefully, like the name meant something. I promise you, we're gonna Cooper. But I need you to be brave a little longer. Can you do that? Zuri nodded, not trusting. David gently examined Cooper again, his movements confident and sure. We need to keep him warm and minimize movement. The broken leg we can fix. It's the internal bleeding that's the real danger. He shrugged off his threadbare coat, revealing another layer beneath, and draped it carefully over Cooper like a blanket. The coat was dirty and probably smelled bad, but Zuri didn't care. It was warm, it was help, it was someone finally caring. How do you know so much about dogs? Zuri asked. Something painful flickered across David's face. I had a dog once, long time ago. He looked a lot like Cooper, actually. The businessman who'd accused David pushed forward in the crowd. Officer Walsh, are you going to let this vagrant disrespect you? He's clearly stolen that phone, probably stole it from someone in the park. You should arrest him. For what? A woman's voice called from the crowd. For helping a kid you all ignored? He could be dangerous, another voice argued. We don't know where he came from or what he wants. What he wants is to save a dying dog, someone else countered, which is more than the rest of you did. The crowd was fracturing, arguing among themselves, the phones still recording everything. This was gonna be all over social media in minutes. David pulled out his expensive phone again and made another call. Angela, I need you to contact the Grandview Hotel immediately. Downtown location. Find a housekeeper named Shanice Johnson, works on the 12th floor. Zuri's eyes went wide. That's my mama. How did you? David held up a finger, still talking. Her daughter Zuri has had an emergency. Tell hotel management she's leaving right now with full pay for the day, and if they have any problem with that, they can discuss it with me personally. Also send a car to pick her up, bring her to. He looked at Zuri. Where's Dr. Patterson's office? Patterson Veterinary Specialist, came a new voice. East 84th Street. Everyone turned. A black Mercedes SUV had pulled up onto the park pathway, technically illegal, but nobody was stopping it. A woman in her 50s jumped out carrying a medical bag that looked more sophisticated than most human emergency kits. She took one look at the scene, the crowd, the security guard, David in his homeless clothes, and didn't even blink. Just dropped to her knees beside Cooper and started working. David, what have we got? Everything I told you on the phone, plus approximately 7 minutes of wasted time thanks to public theater. Dr. Patterson pulled out equipment Zuri had never seen before, started an IV in Cooper's leg, administered something that made his breathing easier almost immediately. Good call getting me here fast, she said, working quickly. Another 10 minutes and we'd have lost him. She looked at Zuri with kind eyes. You're very brave, sweetheart, and very lucky that David was here. Nobody else would help, Zuri said quietly. They all just walked away. Dr. Patterson's expression hardened. She glanced at the crowd, at Officer Walsh, and something like disgust crossed her professional features. David, your assistant Angela called me earlier, said you went off grid again. Your whole building is in a panic. The board meeting was supposed to start an hour ago. Officer Walsh's eyes widened. The crowd went very, very still. Board meeting can wait, David said simply. This couldn't. They're threatening to vote you out if you don't show up. Let them try. Dr. Patterson prepared Cooper for transport to her vehicle. We need to get him to my clinic immediately. Zuri, honey, you'll need to come with me. We'll need consent forms signed, but I'll call your mother in the car. Already done, David said. Angela's sending a car for Shanice Johnson. She'll meet you at your clinic.
Looked like he'd swallowed something unpleasant. Dr. Patterson? As in Patterson Veterinary Specialist? The clinic that treats the mayor's dogs? Among others, Dr. Patterson said, without looking up from Cooper. Another vehicle pulled up, a sleek Tesla. A professional woman in a sharp business suit jumped out, tablet in hand, looking frantic and stressed. Mr. Whitmore, the board is threatening to... She stopped dead, taking in the scene. The dirty clothes, the crowd, the injured dog. Her face went pale. Oh no, not again. Mr. Whitmore. The name rippled through the crowd like an electric current. David Whitmore, CEO of Whitmore Technologies, net worth estimated at $40 billion, one of the richest and most powerful men in New York City. Officer Walsh looked like he might faint. Keep watching, because when a billionaire reveals why he walks around dressed as a homeless man, the truth will break your heart and change how you see everyone around you. The woman with the tablet looked like she wanted to disappear into the ground. Mr. Whitmore, she said again, her voice tight with stress. The shareholders are on the phone. The board members are threatening to call an emergency vote. They're saying if you don't show up to this meeting, they'll have grounds to remove you as CEO. David Whitmore, because that's who he was, Zuri was starting to understand. Not just David the kind stranger, but David Whitmore the billionaire didn't even look at the woman. He was focused on Dr. Patterson loading Cooper into her Mercedes SUV. Angela, tell the board I'll be there when I'm done here. If they want to vote me out for saving a child's dog, they're welcome to try. It won't be the first time they've threatened it. But sir, the board has been trying to control me for 5 years. They haven't succeeded yet. He finally looked at Angela and his voice softened slightly. I made a promise to Zuri that Cooper would be okay. I'm keeping that promise. Everything else can wait. Angela's expression shifted from panic to something like resignation. She'd clearly been through this before. Yes, sir. I'll handle them. But they're not going to be happy. They're billionaires who got told no. They're never happy. David turned to Zuri. Ready to go save your best friend? Zuri could only nod, her mind still trying to process what was happening. This dirty, homeless man was actually one of the richest people in the entire world, and he'd stopped to help her when nobody else would. Officer Walsh had gone from purple to gray, all the blood draining from his face. His hand had dropped from his radio. His mouth opened and closed like a fish, but no word. The businessman who had accused David of harassment was backing away slowly, his face showing the exact moment he realized he just called one of the most powerful men in New York City a vagrant on camera, with dozens of people. The crowd was buzzing now, whispers turning into loud conversations. That's David Whitmore, the tech billionaire? He's worth like $40 billion. What's he doing dressed? Oh my God, I walked right past him earlier. I thought he was panicking. We all did. Dr. Patterson secured Cooper in her vehicle and turned to Zuri. Sweetheart, would you like to ride with me and Cooper, or with Mr. Whitmore the assistant? With Cooper, Zuri said immediately. She wasn't letting him out of her sight. Then hop in. Angela will follow us. Dr. Patterson looked at David. Right behind. David started toward the Tesla, then paused and turned back to Officer Walsh, who still stood frozen like a... Officer, I understand that you were... But your job should be about helping people, not deciding who deserves help based on how they...
Walsh opened his mouth, closed it. Mr. Whitmore, I didn't realize I apologize. David interrupted. You're apologizing because you know who I am now. But 20 minutes ago, when you thought I was just a homeless man, you were ready to arrest me.
For helping a child. Think about that. Really think about it. He gestured to the crowd, many of whom looked away in shame. This child was desperate. She was screaming for help, and every single one of you walked past her like she was invisible. Why? Because she's a little black girl with a hurt dog, and helping her wasn't convenient, wasn't comfortable, might get your clothes dirty or make you late for brunch? A woman in the crowd, the jogger in pink yoga clothes, had tears running down her face. But now that you know I'm rich, David continued, now that you know I'm someone important, suddenly everything looks different. Suddenly, this is a story about a billionaire helping people instead of a story about all of you choosing not to. The businessman tried to speak. Mr. Whitmore, I was concerned for the child's safety. You were concerned about your Saturday morning walk being disrupted. You took a picture to complain to park management. You called me a vagrant. You told Officer Walsh I was harassing her. Don't rewrite history just because cameras are watching. The man's face crumbled. Actual tears started falling. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I saw the situation and I just assumed. You assumed that someone who looks homeless couldn't possibly be helping. That a black child with a bleeding dog was a problem to be managed rather than a person to be helped. David's voice wasn't angry. It was sad, disappointed, which somehow felt worse. We all make assumptions, but your assumptions almost cost this little girl her best friend. Zuri watched all of this from Dr. Patterson's SUV, where she sat with Cooper's head in her lap. The vet had given him something for pain and he was breathing easier now, but he was still in danger. They needed to go. But she also needed to hear this, needed to hear someone finally say what she'd felt all morning, that she'd been invisible, not because she didn't matter, but because people had chosen not to see her. Dr. Patterson started the engine. David, we really need to move. David nodded and started toward the Tesla again, but Angela stopped him with a hand on his arm. Sir, there's something else you should know. The video is already online. Multiple angles. It's going viral within an hour. Everyone is going to know that David Whitmore spends time dressed as homeless. David was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that made even Angela's professional mask crack. Good. Maybe people need to know. Maybe they need to understand why I do this. He looked back at the crowd one more time, and when he spoke, his voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. I dress like this once a month. Have been doing it for 3 years, and every single time I learned the same lesson, that most people's kindness has conditions, that compassion is convenient only when it doesn't cost anything. The crowd was dead silent now. Even the person who'd been arguing on their phone had hung up. My daughter taught me that, David said, and his voice cracked on the word daughter. Before she died. If you believe kindness should be given to everyone, not just people who look like they deserve it, share this video because what this billionaire says next about his daughter will change how you see every stranger you pass on the street. The words hung in the air like a weight. My daughter. Before she died. Zuri watched from the SUV as David Whitmore, billionaire CEO, one of the most powerful people in the world, stood in his dirty clothes in front of dozens of cameras and prepared to tell a story that clearly caused him pain. Her name was Riley, David said, and the way he said it was like handling something precious and broken. She was 8 years old, the same age as Zuri. Dr. Patterson had paused with her hand on the gear shift, listening. Even she seemed surprised. Angela's professional mask had completely fallen away, revealing raw emotion underneath. Rare brain cancer, David continued, his voice steady but his eyes wet. Glioblastoma. We caught it early, had the best doctors in the world, unlimited resources.
I built a wing at Children's Hospital just to make sure she had the best care, spent millions on experimental treatments, called in favors from every specialist on the planet. He stopped, swallowed hard. None of it mattered. She died anyway. 3 years ago last month. The yoga jogger was openly sobbing now.
The businessman had sat down on a bench, his head in his hands. Even Officer Walsh's eyes were shining with tears. "Before she died," David said, "Riley asked me a question that I couldn't answer. We were in the hospital, and she'd been observing the staff for weeks. She was smart like that, always watching, always thinking." A sad smile crossed his face. "She asked me why people treated her differently when they knew who she was. She'd noticed that when she was just another sick kid in a hospital gown, some of the staff were rushed, impatient, sometimes even cold. But when they found out she was David Whitmore's daughter, suddenly everyone was extra nice, extra careful, extra everything." David's hands clenched into fists at his sides. She was 8 years old and dying, and what bothered her wasn't the cancer, it was the unfairness. She wanted to know why being rich made her more valuable, why other kids in the cancer ward didn't get the same attention she did, why the nurses smiled bigger when they knew her last name. Zuri felt tears running down her own face. She understood. She understood exactly what Riley had noticed. The same thing Zuri had learned this morning, that who you are matters less than what people think you are. "I told her that people were just being polite," David said, "that it didn't mean anything, but she looked at me with those eyes." His voice broke completely. "Those beautiful, dying eyes, and she said, 'Daddy, if being polite depends on who someone is, that's not politeness. That's just pretending.'" The crowd had stopped being a crowd. They'd become individuals, each one confronting their own guilt, their own choices, their own moments of walking past someone who needed help. "She made me promise her something before she died," David said. "She made me promise that I'd never forget that rich or poor, sick or healthy, powerful or powerless, we're all just people, all deserving of kindness, all deserving of being seen." He looked directly at the cameras, tears streaming down his dirty face. "So once a month, I dress like this. I leave my mansion, my cars, my suits, my security team. I put on old clothes and I walk through the city my daughter loved, through the parks where I used to push her on the swings, through the streets where we get ice cream. And I see how people treat someone who looks like they have nothing." Angela wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Even Dr. Patterson looked shaken. "And every single time," David's voice grew stronger, "I learned that Riley was right, that most people's kindness is conditional, that compassion has a price tag, that someone who looks homeless is invisible unless they're being seen as a problem." He gestured at Zuri in the SUV. "This little girl didn't care what I looked like. She was desperate and scared, and her best friend was dying, and when I stopped to help, she didn't question whether I was qualified, didn't worry about my clothes or my smell or whether I was dangerous. She just trusted that someone finally cared." The businessman stood up from the bench, walked toward David, and did something nobody expected. He dropped to his knees right there on the park pathway. "I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. My daughter is 8, the same age. And if she needed help and everyone walked past her..." He couldn't finish the sentence, just knelt there crying while the cameras recorded his breakdown. The yoga jogger approached too, her voice choked with tears. I saw her crying with her dog, and I didn't want to get involved. I had a class to get to. I told myself someone else would help." "But nobody did," David said quietly, "because everyone told themselves the same thing." Officer Walsh stepped forward, his professional authority completely gone, replaced by a man confronting his own failures. "Mr. Whitmore, I don't know what to say. I saw a situation, and I made assumptions based on appearance, based on stereotypes. I thought I was protecting the child, but I was really protecting my own comfort, my own prejudices." David looked at each of them,
The businessman kneeling, the jogger crying, the officer stripped of his authority. And when he spoke, his voice was tired, but not cruel. I'm not telling you this to shame you. I'm telling you because Riley believed people were fundamentally good. She believed that underneath all our assumptions and prejudices and fear, there was goodness. And I do this, he gestured at his clothes, to prove her right. He turned back to the full crowd, to all the phones still recording. But days like today make that very, very hard, because it's not just you, it's everyone. It's a society that's taught us to judge people by their appearance, to decide who deserves help based on whether they look like they can afford it, to value wealth over worth, success over struggle, image over humanity. A mother in the crowd spoke up, her voice shaking. What can we do? How do we change? David was quiet for a moment. Then he said something simple but profound. See people. Really see them. Not their clothes or their car or their address or the color of their skin. See their humanity. And when someone needs help, especially when that someone doesn't look like you or live like you or have what you have, help them anyway. Help them especially. He walked toward the Tesla, then stopped one more time. Riley believed the world could be better, could be kinder, could be fair. She died believing that, and I'll be damned if I'm gonna let her die wrong. David got into the Tesla. Angela followed, wiping her eyes. Dr. Patterson shifted into drive. But before they pulled away, Zuri rolled down her window. She looked at all those people, the ones who'd ignored her, walked past her, judged her, decided she didn't matter. And she said the only thing that needed to be said. Thank you for seeing me. Then she looked at David Whitmore, billionaire in homeless clothes, father of a daughter who'd seen the truth about humanity, the only person who'd stopped to help. Thank you for seeing me too. Hit subscribe if you believe Riley was right, that people can be better, can be kinder, can choose to see each other's humanity. Because what happens when this video goes viral will prove that sometimes one moment of truth can change thousands of lives. The Mercedes SUV smelled like antiseptic and dog shampoo, a clean medical smell that should have been comforting, but just reminded Zuri how serious this was. Cooper lay on a specialized stretcher in the back, hooked up to an IV that dripped clear fluid into his little leg. His breathing was better than it had been, but he still wasn't conscious. Wasn't wagging his tail or licking Zuri's hand or doing any of the Cooper things that made him Cooper. Dr. Patterson drove with focused intensity, weaving through Manhattan traffic like she was in an action movie. The Tesla followed close behind, David and Angela visible through the tinted windows. Is he going to die? Zuri asked quietly. Dr. Patterson glanced at her in the rearview mirror. I'm not going to lie to you, sweetheart. He's in critical condition. The internal bleeding is serious, but we're doing everything right. We got to him in time, we've stabilized him, and my clinic has equipment that most animal hospitals don't have access to. Because you treat rich people's dogs, Zuri said. It wasn't an accusation, just a fact. Yes, Dr. Patterson said honestly. I've built my career on wealthy clients. But that equipment doesn't care who owns the dog. It works the same for Cooper as it does for the mayor's poodle. And I promise you he's getting the exact same care I'd give any patient. Zuri nodded, stroking Cooper's head gently. Mr. Whitmore's daughter, Riley, she really died. She did, Dr. Patterson said softly. I was her dog's vet. That's how I met David. Riley had this golden retriever named Sunny. Beautiful dog. Gentle as could be. When Riley got sick, Sunny wouldn't leave her side. David had me make house calls to the hospital so Sunny could visit. Dr. Patterson's voice got thick with emotion. Sunny died 6 months after Riley did. Broken heart syndrome, I think, though we called it cancer. David was there when we put him down. He held that dog and cried harder than he cried at Riley's funeral. Said he couldn't fall apart when Riley died because he had to be strong. But with Thunny, he finally let himself grieve. Zuri thought about that, about losing so much. A daughter, a dog, everything that made you happy. Is that why he dresses like homeless? Because he's sad? Partly, but mostly because Riley made him see the world differently, made him see how people treat each other based on their appearance, to decide who deserves help based on whether they look like they can afford it, to value wealth over worth, success over struggle, image over humanity.
Appearances. And he can't unsee it now, can't ignore it. So he tests it, challenges it, forces people to confront their own prejudices. Did it work? Did people get better? Dr. Patterson was quiet for a moment. Some did. Some didn't. But today, with you and Cooper, with all those cameras recording, today might actually change things. People don't like being shown the truth about themselves, but sometimes they need to see it anyway. They pulled up to a sleek modern building on East 84th Street. Patterson Veterinary Specialists look more like a luxury hotel than an animal hospital. Glass doors, marble floors, a reception area with artwork on the walls. 2 vet techs rushed out with a gurney before Dr. Patterson even parked. They moved with practice efficiency, transferring Cooper from the SUV to the gurney, calling out vital signs to each other in medical shorthand Zuri didn't understand. "Zuri, I need you to stay in the waiting room while we work," Dr. Patterson said. "Your mother should be here any minute. Angela arranged for a car to pick her up." "But," Zuri started to protest, "I know you want to be with him, but the best thing you can do for Cooper right now is let me and my team do our jobs. We're going to take excellent care of him. I promise." David appeared beside them as the techs wheeled Cooper through the glass doors. He'd taken off the outer coat, but still looked disheveled and dirty next to the pristine clinic. People in the waiting room stared openly. "I'll stay with her until her mother arrives," David said. Dr. Patterson nodded and rushed inside after Cooper. The glass doors closed, and suddenly Zuri was standing on the sidewalk with a billionaire dressed as a homeless man, watching her best friend disappear into surgery. "Come on," David said gently. "Let's get you inside." The waiting room was full of wealthy pet owners with purebred dogs and designer carriers. A woman with a Persian cat and a Louis Vuitton bag wrinkled her nose when David walked in. A man with a French bulldog moved to a seat further away. Zuri saw it all. Saw how they looked at David, how they judged him, how they decided he didn't belong in their expensive animal hospital. But David didn't seem to care. He guided Zuri to a chair and sat beside her, ignoring the stares. "She's going to save him," David said. "Dr. Patterson is the best there is." "How much does it cost? Surgery here. My mama doesn't have a lot of money." "Already taken care of." "But," "Zuri, you saved my life today." She looked at him, confused. "I didn't save your life. You saved Cooper's. You reminded me why I do this, why I put on these clothes and walk through the world testing humanity. Because of people like you. Children who see past the surface, who judge character instead of appearance, who trust when trust isn't easy." He pulled out his phone, that expensive, impossible phone, and showed her the screen. It was a video. The video. From the park. It had been posted 20 minutes ago and already had 500,000 views. "It's everywhere," David said quietly. "Every news outlet, every social media platform. Everyone is watching. Everyone is talking about the billionaire in disguise, the little black girl nobody helped, the dog that almost died because kindness was inconvenient." Zuri watched herself on the screen. Watch yourself crying over Cooper. Watch people walking past. Watch David kneel down to help. The comments were flooding in. Thousands per minute. This broke my heart. I'm ashamed of every time I've walked past someone who needed help. That little girl's face when everyone ignored her, I'm crying. We are failing our children and each other. The way those people treated Mr. Whitmore when they thought he was homeless is disgusting. This is America's shame on full display. David scrolled to another video, from a different angle. This one showed him talking about Riley, about his daughter who'd seen the truth, about his promise to prove people could be good. 5 million views. In less than an hour. You're going to be famous. And so is Cooper. And people are going to have a lot of opinions about what happened today. Some good, some bad.
Are you ready for that? Zuri thought about her mama, who cleans hotel rooms for people who probably never noticed her.
About her school, where kids made fun of her discount store clothes. About the park, where dozens of people had decided she didn't matter enough to help. Will it change anything, she asked? People watching these videos? Will it make them better? David was quiet for a moment. I don't know. I hope so. Riley hopes so. But people have short memories. They'll watch this, feel guilty for a day or a week, and then go back to their lives. Unless... The glass doors burst open and Shanice Johnson ran in, still wearing her housekeeping uniform, her face streaked with tears. Zuri, baby! She rushed to her daughter, dropping to her knees and pulling Zuri into a fierce hug. Oh my God, are you okay? They told me Cooper was hit by a car and you were at some expensive vet and I didn't understand what was happening. I'm okay, Mama. Zuri hugged her back just as tight. Cooper's in surgery and this is Mr. Whitmore. He helped us. Shanice looked up at David and her eyes went wide with recognition. She worked at a hotel he owned, after all. She'd seen his picture in the employee handbook, though he looked nothing like that photo now. Mr. Whitmore, thank you. Thank you for helping my baby. I don't know how I'll ever... Mrs. Johnson, David interrupted gently, you don't owe me anything. Zuri is remarkable. You should be very proud. Shanice's phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. She pulled it out, confused, and her face went pale. Why am I looking at videos of Zuri on the internet? Why does it say 10 million views? What happened? David stood, preparing to explain, when Angela burst through the doors, looking panicked in a way Zuri hadn't seen before. David, we have a situation, Angela said urgently. The video hit national news, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, everyone. But that's not the problem. What's the problem? David asked. Angela's face was grave. Someone found out about Shanice, about where she works. They dug into the Grandview Hotel's employment records and discovered you own it. And now people are saying this whole thing was staged, that you orchestrated it, that Zuri and Shanice are actresses you hired to make yourself look good. If you believe the truth matters more than conspiracy theories, keep watching. Because what happens when strangers start tearing apart a little girl's worst day will show you exactly how cruel the internet can be. The waiting room TV switched to breaking news. Zuri watched in horror as her own face filled the screen. The video from the park playing on loop while talking heads debated its authenticity. I'm just saying it's awfully convenient, a man in a suit said on CNN. David Whitmore owns the hotel where the mother works. He's been doing these homeless disguise walks for 3 years supposedly, but we only have his word for that. This could absolutely be a staged PR event. Oh, come on, Marcus, a woman next to him countered. You saw that child's face. You saw that dog bleeding. You think they faked that? Hollywood fakes worse every day. I'm not saying they hurt the dog on purpose, but maybe the situation was exploited. Maybe Whitmore saw an opportunity and took it. Shanice's hand covered her mouth. They think I'm lying? They think I'd hurt Cooper for publicity? It's what people do when confronted with uncomfortable truth, David said, his voice hard. They'd rather believe a conspiracy than accept that they've been walking past people in need their whole lives. His phone rang. Then Angela's rang. Then Shanice's. The clinic's front desk phone started ringing off the hook. Don't answer, David told them. Angela, get our PR team on damage control. I want a statement out within the hour with medical records proving Cooper's injuries are real, testimony from the police about the hit-and-run driver they're searching for, and statements from everyone in that park who recorded what happened. But the damage was already spreading. Social media had become a battlefield. One side, this is real and heartbreaking and shows exactly what's wrong with our society. The other side, billionaire stages fake rescue to look good. Wake up, people. Someone had already created a conspiracy theory thread claiming David had paid the attackers to stage the mugging, hired Shanice as an actress, and deliberately injured the dog for sympathy. Zuri felt sick. Cooper was fighting for his life in surgery, and strangers on the internet were calling it fake? Calling her a liar? Calling her mother an actress? I want to tell them, Zuri said suddenly. I want to tell them the truth. Zuri, no, Shanice said immediately. You're a child. You don't need to defend yourself to... But they're saying we lied. They're saying we hurt Cooper on purpose.
And nothing you say will convince them otherwise, David said gently. People who want to believe conspiracy theories will always find reasons to doubt the truth. That's not your burden to carry. But Zuri was already pulling out her mother's phone, her fingers shaking as she opened the camera app. "Baby, what are you doing?" Shanice asked. "What Mr. Whitmore does," Zuri said. "Showing people the truth, making them see." She pressed record. "My name is Zuri Johnson. I'm 8 years old. This morning, my dog Cooper got hit by a car in Riverside Park. I screamed for help and everyone walked away. Everyone except a man who looked homeless. I didn't know he was rich. I didn't know he was Mr. Whitmore. I just knew he stopped when nobody else would." Her voice cracked, but she kept going. "People on the internet are saying this was fake, that my mama and me are actresses, that we hurt Cooper for attention. But Cooper is in surgery right now, fighting to live. And this morning, I was just a little girl who needed help, and nobody cared until they found out the person helping was important." Tears streamed down her face. "I don't care if you believe me. I care that Cooper lives. And I care that tomorrow, when another kid needs help, maybe somebody remembers how it felt to watch everyone walk past me. Maybe somebody... She ended the recording and posted it to her mother's social media before anyone could. The video went viral faster than the original. 20 million views in 2 hours. Celebrities sharing it. Politicians commenting on it. The conspiracy theorists got drowned out by a wave of people who'd seen an 8-year-old's raw pain and couldn't deny its authenticity. Dr. Patterson emerged from surgery just as the sun was setting, her scrub spotted with blood. The waiting room had cleared out. The wealthy pet owners had left, uncomfortable with the media circus gathering outside. Zuri, Shanice, and David stood up immediately. Dr. Patterson smiled, exhausted but genuine. "He made it. Cooper's going to be okay." Zuri burst into tears, and this time they were tears of relief so powerful she couldn't stand. Shanice caught her and they cried together while David watched with wet eyes of his own. "The surgery was complicated," Dr. Patterson explained. "We had to repair internal bleeding from his liver and spleen. The leg we set with pins. He'll need weeks of recovery and physical therapy, but he's young and strong. He's going to make a full recovery." "Can I see him?" Zuri asked through her tears. "He's in recovery and still sedated, but yes." They followed Dr. Patterson to a room that looked more like a human hospital than a vet clinic. Cooper lay on a small bed, bandaged and surrounded by monitoring equipment, but alive, breathing. His little chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. Zuri approached carefully and placed her hand. "I'm here, Cooper. I'm here and you're safe. And I love you so much." Cooper's tail gave the tiniest wag, even in his dreams. Outside, the media had gathered in force. News vans lined the street. Reporters set up cameras. The story had exploded beyond anything anyone could have predicted. David's phone buzzed with a call from his board of directors. Aguila answered it, putting it on speaker. "David, the shareholders are thrilled. The company stock is up 15%. Public approval ratings are through the roof. Whatever you did, it worked. We're not voting you out, we're giving you a..." David's expression. "This wasn't about stock prices, Gerald. Of course not. A child and her dog almost died today because dozens of people decided helping wasn't worth their time. That's the story, not my company's stock price." He hung up. Shanice's phone rang next. The hotel manager, sounding nervous. "Mrs. Johnson, we'd like to discuss your promotion to assistant manager of guest services, effective immediately, with a significant raise, of course." Shanice's face cycled through confusion, then understanding, then anger. "You're offering me this because I'm on TV. We're offering it because we value. You didn't value me yesterday when I asked for emergency leave and got threatened with firing. Don't lie now." She hung up too. David smiled. "Good. Don't let them rewrite history." Over the next week, the ripple effects continued.
Officer Walsh from the park resigned and enrolled in social work school, posting a public apology video that went viral itself. The businessman who'd accused David broke down on morning television, confessing his prejudice and pledging to volunteer at homeless shelters. The yoga jogger started a foundation for emergency animal care for low-income families. Within days, it had raised over $2 million. Other stories started emerging. People who'd walked past someone in need, who'd made assumptions based on appearance, who were now confronting their own complicity in a society that valued wealth over worth. The conversation went national, then global. Who do we ignore became a rallying cry. Who do we fail to see? But for Zuri, the most important change was smaller, quieter. Cooper came home 3 weeks later, walking with a slight limp, but alive and playful. David had covered every penny of the $47,000 surgery bill, but more than that, he'd become part of their lives. Once a month, he'd visit, sometimes in his business suit, sometimes in his homeless disguise, and take Zuri to the park. They'd throw the ball for Cooper and talk about Riley, about kindness, about the world, and how to make it better. "Do you think it worked?" Zuri asked during one of these visits, 6 months after that day in the park. "Do you think people really changed?" David watched Cooper chase a butterfly, his leg fully healed now, no memory of the car or the pain or how close he'd come to dying. "I'm glad I saw you that day," Zuri said. "Not the rich you or the homeless you. I'm glad you saw me too. That's all Riley ever wanted. For people to see each other, really see each other." In the distance, a woman walked past the homeless man sitting on a bench. She stopped, talked to him for a moment, and handed him not just money, but a bag of food and a bottle of water. The homeless man wasn't David in disguise. He was just a man who needed help, and someone had stopped. Subscribe to Topcore if you believe one act of kindness can change the
world. Because Riley was right. People can be better. We just have to choose to see each other every single day. No exceptions. This is Topcore, where stories teach us that compassion has no dress code, and the smallest hands can make the biggest difference. For every person who saw the story as a lesson in compassion, there was someone else who saw it as an attack. They saw a wealthy white man on his knees, apologizing. They saw a black child being celebrated as a hero. They saw a system being challenged, and they didn't like it. Leading the charge was the businessman who'd accused David of harassment in the park. His name was Arthur Davenport, and the internet had not been kind to him. His business was losing clients. His country club membership was under review. He'd been publicly shamed, and he was looking for revenge. He found it in the one place designed to hurt families the most: Child Protective Services. An anonymous tip was filed against Shanice Johnson. The claim? Neglect. That she, an overworked single mother, had allowed her 8-year-old daughter to play unsupervised in a dangerous park, leading to the animal's injury. Another claim? Exploitation. That she was now using her daughter's newfound fame to solicit donations and associate with a billionaire for financial gain. The first call from CPS felt like a punch to the gut. "Ms. Johnson, this is Helen Sterling from the Administration for Children's Services. We've received a report of potential child endangerment. We need to schedule a home visit and an interview with your daughter, alone." "Alone? She's 9 years old now," Shanice protested. It had been nearly a year since the park incident. A year of healing, of Cooper's recovery, of building a new life with the support David had offered. "That is standard procedure, Ms. Johnson. Refusal to cooperate will be noted in our report." David immediately hired the best family law attorney in New York. But even she warned them that CPS investigations were their own kind of beast. Once started, they were nearly impossible to stop. The home visit was a nightmare. The social worker, Miss Sterling, walked through their clean, loving apartment with an expression of polite disapproval. She noted the small size of the rooms, the fact that Zuri slept on a pull-out couch in the living room, the lack of a dedicated play area. "You work long hours, Miss Johnson," Miss Sterling said, making notes on a clipboard. Who supervises Zuri when you're at your two jobs? I don't work two jobs anymore. Mr. Whitmore's foundation gave me a grant to finish nursing school. I'm home every afternoon when she gets out of school. Miss Sterling wrote that down, but her tone suggested it was just another complication. So you're financially dependent on Mr. Whitmore? He's a friend. He's helping us. A friend who's a billionaire. An arrangement that began after a highly publicized incident in a park. You can see how that might look, can't you? Then came the interview with Zuri. An hour in a small, windowless room with a woman who asked questions that twisted everything. Does Mr. Whitmore ever make you feel uncomfortable? No, he's my friend. Does he give you lots of expensive gifts? He bought Cooper a new collar, and he helped my mama pay for school. Has your mother ever told you what to say to the reporters or in your videos? No, she says to just tell the truth. Miss Sterling's questions kept circling back to the same point, that Zuri was being coached, used, manipulated, that her relationship with David was inappropriate, that Shanice was an unfit mother using her child for financial gain. 2 weeks later, the preliminary report came back. The recommendation was devastating. Based on our investigation, the report read, it is our recommendation that Zuri Johnson be temporarily placed in foster care pending a full custody hearing. The child is currently in an unstable environment, subject to media exploitation, and in a potentially coercive relationship with an unrelated adult male, David Whitmore. Shanice dropped the letter, her hands shaking too hard to hold it. Foster care. They were going to take her baby. The news hit the internet like a bomb. Hashtag #StandWithZuri trended, but so did hashtag exploited by billionaire. The narrative David had so carefully controlled was being hijacked. Arthur Davenport
Went on Fox News, claiming he'd be right all along. I saw an unsupervised child in a dangerous situation, Davenport said, his face a mask of false concern. I tried to get her help, and I was vilified for it. Now the state is finally doing what I tried to do. Protect that little girl. The custody hearing was set for a month later. 1 month to prove that their loving family wasn't a scam. 1 month before a judge could decide to tear Zuri away from her mother. David's lawyers prepared for war, but Davenport's legal team was just as good. They subpoenaed David's financial records, trying to paint every act of kindness as a transaction. They subpoenaed Zuri's school records, looking for any sign of emotional distress. They prepared to argue that David Whitmore, grieving for his dead daughter, was using Zuri as a replacement, creating a psychologically damaging situation. The night before the hearing, Zuri found her mother crying in the kitchen. "What if they take you away from me?" Shanice whispered. "Zuri, you're my whole world. If I lose you..." "You won't lose me, Mama," Zuri said, her voice full of a confidence she didn't feel. "We just have to tell the truth, like always." But as Zuri lay in bed that night, clutching Cooper's warm, sleeping body, she wondered if the truth was enough. The truth hadn't been enough in the park. People had seen the truth, a scared little girl with a dying dog, and they'd walked away. What if the judge looked at them and did the same thing? What if the system, the big, powerful system that was supposed to protect kids like her, decided that a poor black family couldn't possibly be as good as a state-approved foster home? The next morning, Zuri put on her yellow Sunday dress, the same one she'd worn that day in the park. It was clean now, the bloodstains long gone, but she remembered where they had been. It was a reminder of what happened when you needed help and nobody cared, and a reminder of what happened when one person did. As she walked into the cold, intimidating courtroom, holding her mother's hand on one side and David's on the other, she knew this was the real test, not just for her family, but for the lesson she and David had tried to teach the world. The lesson that seeing people was more important than judging them. But the woman sitting on the judge's bench had eyes that looked cold, hard, and judgmental. And Zuri's heart sank, because the judge looked exactly like all the people who had walked past her in the park. The courtroom felt colder than the park had been that November day. Arthur Davenport sat in the front row with a smug look on his face. The lawyer for ACS, a woman with a sharp suit and a sharper expression, laid out the case against Shanice. Unstable environment, media exploitation, coercive relationship with a benefactor. The words were clinical, stripping all the love and kindness from what had happened and turning it into something ugly.
Miss Johnson has accepted over $100,000 in financial support from Mr. Whitmore since the incident, the lawyer said. She quit her jobs to attend nursing school, paid for by Mr. Whitmore. Her daughter has appeared in numerous public interviews and is the face of a viral social media campaign. This is not a healthy environment for a 9-year-old child. David's lawyer, a brilliant woman named Maria Flores, fought back hard. She presented bank statements showing Shanice's perfect record of paying bills on time, report cards showing Zuri was a straight-A student, testimony from teachers about what a happy, well-adjusted child she was. But the judge's face remained impassive, unreadable. Then David was called to the stand. The ACS lawyer was relentless. Mr. Whitmore, isn't it true that you see your deceased daughter, Riley, when you look at Zuri Johnson? I see a brave, intelligent, kind young lady, qualities my daughter also had. So you are using Zuri as a surrogate for your own child. I am mentoring a young person who reminds me of the best parts of my daughter. There's a difference. A difference that includes paying for her mother's education, covering all their living expenses, and featuring her prominently in your new multi-million-dollar foundation. The foundation is named after my daughter. Zuri is a youth ambassador because her story perfectly represents our
mission: to encourage people to see each other's humanity. She's not an employee. She's an inspiration. The lawyer smirked. An inspiration you pay very well. It went on like that for an hour, twisting every act of kindness into a transaction, every moment of mentorship into manipulation. Finally, the judge looked at Zuri. The court will now hear from the child in my chambers, parents and counsel only. In the judge's office, the questions were softer but no less sharp. Zuri, do you feel safe at home with your mother? The judge asked. Yes, safer than anywhere. And your friend, Mr. Whitmore, he's been very generous to your family. Do you feel like you owe him anything for that? Zuri thought about that. I don't owe him anything, but I'm grateful to him. There's a difference. How so? Mr. Whitmore didn't help me because he wanted something from me. He helped me because I needed help. And he keeps helping my mom because he says talent shouldn't be wasted just because you're poor. And the interviews, the videos. Do you enjoy being in the spotlight? I don't like the cameras, Zuri said honestly. But I like that my story makes people think. After the video went viral, a lady from my church started a program to help people take care of their pets when they can't afford it. A man who saw the video volunteered at a homeless shelter. My story isn't about me. It's about getting people to stop walking past each other. The judge was quiet for a long moment, studying Zuri's face. Thank you, Zuri. You can wait outside with your mother. As they left, Arthur Davenport was called in. 20 minutes later, he came out looking confident. The final witness was a surprise. Officer Walsh, the security guard from the park. He looked different. No uniform, simple clothes. He had lost weight. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but steady. I was wrong that day, he told the judge. I saw a situation and I made assumptions based on race and class. I saw a black child and a man who looked homeless, and I assumed danger. I failed that child. I failed my duty. I failed as a human being. The ACS lawyer tried to object, but the judge waved her to be silent. I've spent the last year trying to understand why I did that, Walsh continued. I volunteer at 3 different shelters now. I've taken courses on implicit bias, I've talked to hundreds of people who live on the streets, and I've spent time with the Johnson family. I can tell you, without a doubt, that the safest place for Zuri Johnson is with her mother. The love in that home is stronger than any system you could place her in. Davenport's lawyer tried to discredit him on cross-examination. You were fired for your actions, weren't you? I resigned, Walsh corrected, because I was ashamed and because I needed to be better. The closing arguments were made. The judge retreated to her chambers. The waiting felt like an eternity. Finally, they were called back in. The judge looked at Shanice and Zuri. Then she looked at David. Then at Davenport. This case is not about neglect. It's about perception and prejudice. I've reviewed the anonymous tip that began this investigation, the language used, the specific details. It's clear it came from someone with a personal vendetta against Mr. Whitmore and the Johnson family.
She stared directly at Arthur Davenport. The state has a duty to protect children, but it also has a duty not to be used as a weapon for personal revenge. There is zero evidence of neglect or exploitation here. What I see is a loving mother, a brave child, and a philanthropist using his resources to correct an injustice he witnessed. Shanice started crying, tears of relief this time. Case dismissed, the judge said. Zuri Johnson will remain in the custody of her mother, but she wasn't done. And I'm referring this case to the district attorney's office for investigation into filing a false report and potential perjury on the part of Mr. Davenport. Davenport's face went white. Furthermore, the judge continued, this case has highlighted a critical flaw in our system. I'm recommending a full review of ACS training protocols regarding implicit bias, and I'm personally making a donation to the Riley Whitmore Foundation. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. But this time, Zuri didn't hide. She stood on the steps with her mother and David and spoke into the microphones. Today, the judge did what everyone in the park should have done. She saw people instead of stereotypes. She listened instead of assuming. My family is safe today because the truth won. A reporter asked David what was next for his foundation. The Riley Whitmore Foundation is proud to announce its first major initiative. It's called the Zuri Project. We'll be funding legal aid for families of color who are unfairly targeted by Child Protective Services, because no family should have to fight to prove their love is good enough. Davenport was later convicted of filing a false report. His reputation was destroyed. He had tried to use the system to punish the people who'd shamed him, and instead, the system had punished him. Years later, when Zuri was 16, she interned at Dr. Cole's law firm. The first case you worked on was defending a single mother against a frivolous CPS investigation, and she won. One afternoon, she and David were sitting on Riley's memorial bench in Riverside Park, watching Cooper, now old and gray but still happy, chase a tennis ball. Do you ever get tired of it? The fight, the hate? It never seems to end. David watched the young mother help a homeless man who dropped his groceries. He watched the group of kids of all different races playing together near the fountain. It doesn't end, but the kindness doesn't end either. Hate is loud, but kindness is persistent. It's quieter, but it builds things that last. Zuri looked at the plaque on Riley's bench. It read, "She believed people were good. It's our job to prove her right." "We're proving her right, aren't we?" Zuri said. "Yeah, kid. I think we are. One person at a time." This is Top Core, where we tell the stories that remind us what matters. If you believe that one act of kindness can start a revolution, that truth is stronger than hate, and that every single person deserves to be seen, then share this story. Subscribe if you're new here, because the world is full of people who will walk past you. Be the one who stops. Be the one who sees. Be the one who proves Riley Whitmore was